Medical degree in Turkish language? Well, some of you guys have been asking me, how is it like studying medicine in a foreign language, in Turkish language? What are the advantages and disadvantages of doing this? Will we be facing any difficulties passing licensing exams? How about the terminology difference? So, all of that in this video. First, let's talk about Turkish language in general. Will it be difficult to understand lectures, communication with patients when doing MBBS or medical degree in Turkish? Now, to answer this question, it is very subjective because the ability to master a language can vary from person to person. So, for myself, I did not face any difficulty during my medical journey, but I cannot say the same for other people because there have been some foreign students who did face difficulties during their medical journey and were not able to clear some of their exams and had to repeat, a year or two doing MBBS because of language barrier and inability to understand lectures or understand the books that are in Turkish language. But that is why I'm saying that it is pretty subjective. Well, if you work hard during your Turkish language year and try and maximize the time period that's given to you and learn the language, I think that this fear or this barrier of Turkish language can be surpassed. And I'm an example of it. And there are a few of my other colleagues as well who have cleared all their exams in the first attempt. So it is possible to do medical degree in Turkish, I would say. Yes, in the early days, you will face some difficulties trying to understand, the lectures because yes, you have spent 1 year, you have learned Turkish language, but it takes time for you to master a language. So, and you do that while you are studying, 5 or 6 years of medical degree, and it takes time. So, in the early few days, you will face some difficulties trying to understand lectures, but that is manageable because you will have time to, check out English resources, maybe study from English resources and try and get a grasp of the topic, maybe watch some YouTube videos, I don't know, try and understand the topic. I'm not saying this to actually disappoint you guys. I'm actually just telling the facts because to some people it does not affect much because, as I've said, it's a subjective matter. They do not face much difficulty in studying medicine in Turkish language. For some people, it is a bit difficult, but in the end, I think everybody manages it. So let's come to the second question, which is what about the terminology here in Turkey? Will we be able to pass licensing exams if we study from Turkey? So the answer to the first question is that 85 to 90% of terminologies here are in Latin language, which are almost universal all across the world. Everybody, across the world mostly uses Latin language, Latin terminology. So to give you an example, for example, we say clavicula in English, and they also say clavicula, but the only difference is in the pronunciation and the letters, that the spelling is different. So, for example, clavicula is spelled with Clavicula. So instead of C, they use K. So similarly, for example, we say pancreas. Pancreas is spelled Pancreas. And so Turkish people say pancreas, meaning they pronounce it a little bit different, and the spelling is a little bit different. So pancreas in Turkish is Pankreas. So that's slight difference, I'd say, in the terminology. And I can tell you, I can assure you that you will not face any difficulty passing licensing exams of a foreign country if you're planning to work abroad after completing your MBBS degree in Turkey, because as I've just mentioned, the terminologies are almost similar. They are in Latin language. The only difference is about maybe 5 to 10%, which is manageable because if you keep yourself updated with English resources, you can easily manage that. So you shouldn't worry about the terminology difference because it's almost the same. And you can easily pass your licensing exams as well if you work hard. And the only 5 to 10% difference of terminology that there is, you can easily close that gap by keeping yourself updated with English resources as well. So that's not an issue. And the first point that I mentioned at the start of this video, you shouldn't be disappointed because, as I've said, even though it's a subjective matter, but if you give yourself time, and MBBS is a long, or medical degree is a long degree, so it takes about maybe 5 years to 6 years, when you graduate. So 5 years of medical degree, 1 year of house job, the internship year. In Turkey, they give you the degree once you have completed the internship. So it's almost 6 years here. So by the end of the medical degree, you kind of end up improving your Turkish language. So by the time you start working as a doctor, you already have mastered the Turkish language. You will realize it for yourself, as I have realized it myself, as I'm working now as an emergency physician in Turkey. So that is not an issue. You shouldn't be disappointed. And if you're planning to work in Turkey in the future, I would recommend doing MBBS in Turkish language rather than some universities are offering programs in English. So rather than doing MBBS or medical degree in English, I would recommend that you do it in Turkish if you're planning to, work in Turkey in the future. So if you have any other queries, any other questions, make sure to comment down in the comment section below. Thank you.